The show starts with Harper Glass, an influencer preparing to go live on her account. As she begins the broadcast, the light above her suddenly crashes. Just then, she and her crew see an alien spacecraft hovering above the city. The craft then descends and changes into a massive crystal tower in an open space. 6 months after the incident, astronaut Nico Breckenridge is packing up with her daughter Jonna, preparing to move because of her husband Eric Wallace's job. Eric, a scientist with the United States Interstellar Command, has been researching the crystal tower and is relocating to Kindersley to continue his work. His team had discovered that the tower is transmitting signals to outer space, but they just figured out who it's communicating with. As Eric continues to explain, Nico interrupts, saying that she already knows the information. She reveals that General Blair Dubois, who oversees the U.S.'s efforts to understand the craft, has tasked her with leading a mission. They are sending out a spacecraft named Salver on a deep space mission to investigate Pi Canis Majoris, where the craft is sending signals. The mission is expected to last 6 months, provided everything goes as planned. Eric is upset by this news and thinks someone else should take on the mission. Nico remains calm and explains that no one else is as qualified for the job. A month into their journey, Nico is awakened from her soma sleep. She calls out to William, the Salver's holographic interface, to find out what's happening. William explains that they miscalculated the position of Pi Canis Majoris because Earth's sensors missed a dark matter in between. As a result, the mission will be extended by an additional 7 months. Nico then goes to wake up the team to inform them of the new changes. Once the team is awake, Nico quickly updates them about the changes to their original plan. She encourages the crew to work together despite the extended mission duration. Later, Eric joins Nico for a holocall, but cuts short when William interrupts to announce that the ship is approaching Sirius A, which does not seem to appreciate their proximity. Despite the ship's former commander, Ian Yerkes' confidence that the ship can manage the situation, Nico decides they need to move out of the star's orbit. The debate over the ship's course causes tension among the crew, with some feeling that Nico is being overly prudent and should step down if she prioritizes safety so highly. Regardless of the crew's thoughts, Nico remains cautious, opting to take a longer route to avoid the risks posed by Sirius A, which will extend their mission time. Ian and August, the ship's lead engineer, propose a plan to create a shield to protect the ship from the star. However, William reports an 11% chance of failure for this plan. Nico considers this risk too high for her crew's safety, and thus rejects their proposal. This leads to a heated argument between Nico and Ian, with Ian arguing that taking on the mission itself is already a major risk. Despite the disagreement, Nico directs them to prepare the team for soma sleep. Back on Earth, Eric and Jonna are dining at a restaurant when Nico calls. She and Jonna talk for a while, and Nico becomes emotional about leaving her family behind. Seeing Nico cry, Eric asks Jonna to get some milk while he tries to talk to Nico, but she ends the call abruptly. Eric then finds Jonna singing a lullaby to put a baby to sleep, which sparks an idea for him. Unfortunately, in the Salver, Nico's plans take a turn for the worse. At the sleep station, Ian confronts her, claiming she has lost the crew's trust. Ian, along with 2 other crew members, stages a mutiny and forces her into soma sleep. Despite her attempts to resist, Nico is overpowered by Ian's underhanded tactics and is ultimately subdued. On the observation deck, Ian discusses his actions with the crew. Bernie Martinez, the microbiologist, disapproves of his action, but others don't side with him. As Ian moves forward with his plan, William refuses to follow orders from him. Ian pressures Zane to declare Nico mentally unfit, forcing Sasha, the government representative, to back Ian. William reluctantly complies, alters the ship's course to Sirius A, and August activates the shield. While the shield works, the solar flares damage the FTL drive, trapping the ship. Meanwhile, Nico dreams peacefully of being home with Eric and Jonna as the Salver is torn apart. In a panic, August wakes Nico, who swiftly takes charge of the situation. She commands William to maneuver the ship away from the star, and instructs Bernie and Javier, the computer engineering expert, to remove Ian when he attempts to interfere again. Nico takes manual control of the steering with William's help and executes a slingshot maneuver to safely escape from the star. The next day, Eric makes a breakthrough. He discovers that a signal was sent from Earth to Pi Canis Majoris in the 1960s, and decides to resend the same message. It turns out to be a piece of music, which the craft recognizes and plays back in response. Although Nico saved everyone, the ship is heavily damaged. William reports that communications are down and they don't know their location. The soma system is offline, preventing new chambers from being activated. Nico orders everyone to get back to work on repairing the ship, but no one listens until Ian echoes her command. Later, Nico and Ian work together on the deck. Ian argues that his actions were to protect Earth, but Nico accuses him of prioritizing his ego over the crew. During their argument, Ian tries to attack Nico with a knife, but she kicks him into a live electrical conduit, causing his death. Nico tells the crew she killed Ian because he was a threat, leading to doubts about her leadership. Bernie and Javier support her. As the Salver loses oxygen, Nico learns from August that they have about 5 hours of reserve oxygen. August suggests retrieving oxygen from a comet, while William proposes backtracking to Sirius, though it would take 48 hours. Michelle suggests using microlensing to find nearby planets, and Nico agrees. On Earth, Dubois informs Eric that they have lost contact with the Salver. Eric suggests they might just be out of signal range, but Dubois reveals that they had a partial communication with the chief engineer, who reported that the Salver is stuck in a deteriorating orbit around Sirius, with major engine damage. Dubois advises Eric to spend time with his daughter. Eric goes to a restaurant and attempts to call Nico, but she is unreachable. At that moment, Harper approaches Eric, asking about Nico. Despite their strained relationship, she inquires if Nico is dead. Eric avoids answering and leaves quickly. On the Salver, William finds a planet with 10% oxygen, and they prepare to land. Nico assigns tasks. Javier and Bernie will do a visual inspection outside, while August and Oliver will use the shuttle to explore a cave. Since August lacks shuttle experience, Nico wakes Cass, a pilot, to handle it. Cass inquires about Ian, but Nico quickly shifts focus to their current tasks. Outside, Javier explains the inspection process to Bernie, who wants to collect soil samples, but Javier advises against it. As they work, the ground shakes, and William identifies it as an earthquake, reassuring them there's no immediate danger. Meanwhile, Cass pilots August and Oliver to a cave filled with crystals. August and Oliver start mining the crystals. As August's visor fogs up, she checks her instrument to see the oxygen level, and lifts her visor. She tells Oliver to do the same, and they become the first people to breathe air on another planet. Nico visits Zane to get a supplement to stay awake. While Zane administers the injection, Nico asks her about Ian, but Zane doesn't reveal anything. To make Nico feel more at ease, Zane shares a story about how her great-grandmother once had to decide which baby to save. Nico, unaffected by the story, leaves the room. As she walks down the hall, she hears Ian's voice and goes to investigate. She finds a hallucination of Ian, created by William to uncover what Ian was thinking and why Nico killed him. On Earth, Jonna watches Harper's news report about the Salver. She is upset with Eric for not being open with her about the situation, and says that if he and the military won't take action, she will. Eric tries to calm her, explaining that they have only lost contact with the Salver, and apologizes for keeping the news from her. While August and Oliver are talking, Cass arrives and informs them that she is heading back to the Salver. When she sees them without the visor, she advises them to keep their visors down, but they do not follow her advice. As Javier completes his task, he looks for Bernie, who has wandered off to collect soil samples. Javier then notices a nearby moon and alerts Nico about it. William explains that they missed it because it was in a low orbit. Nico orders him and Bernie to return to the Salver. Javier finds Bernie, scolds him, and they both hurry back to the ship as the moon's gravity starts pulling on all the magma. William informs Cass they have 9 minutes to get back into orbit, or their mission will fail. As Oliver and August leave the cave, they try to reach Salver, which is already airborne. Oliver is upset that Nico didn't try to rescue them, but he is surprised when a shuttle piloted by Nico herself comes to their aid. Once back on Salver, Nico is visibly shaken. She calls for William and he suggests she see Zane, but she refuses. Instead, she wants to question Ian. William transforms into Ian for this, and Nico asks him if killing him was her only option. Ian replies that life is about making choices, but admits he is unsure if he could have survived. At work, Eric talks with a colleague about his meeting with Harper. She mentions that although he didn't answer her questions directly, he provided all the information she needed. She says that she filled in the blanks, which sparks an idea for Eric. He suspects that the audio from the craft included the negative patterns that they missed. Back on Salver, Cass watches a farewell video from Ian, who had recorded it before leaving. In the video, Ian expresses his love for her, which makes Cass emotional. She later tells everyone that Ian was initially her rival, but thanks him for helping her grow as an astronaut. During the tribute, Petra, a crew member, suddenly starts retching and cracking her bones. Zane is at a loss for how to help, while the rest of the crew watch in shock. On the Salver, Petra continues to wheeze, causing the crew to lock her in a room. While Nico discusses if it is caused by something on the planet, Petra begs to be ejected from the airlock. While Nico talks about whether the issue is related to something on the planet, Petra requests to be ejected through the airlock. This situation causes panic on the ship. Nico calms everyone down, and Zane reassures them that Petra's blood is clean and shows no signs of infection. With communications down and navigation impossible, William suggests using Sirius as a reference point. Nico then assigns tasks to everyone to get things moving. Nico and Cass are working on repairs. Nico accidentally injures herself and vents her frustration, blaming Ian's actions for getting them into their current situation. Cass disagrees, saying that Ian misjudged her. If he had understood her true nature, he would have known she wouldn't hesitate to kill him if necessary. Nico is jolted awake by the unexpected appearance of Sirius Azu at Cloud, which they had missed due to faulty sensors. She quickly takes manual control to keep their ship safe. However, her vision begins to blur, so she calls Cass to take over while she goes to see Zane. Zane informs her that her stress levels are extremely high. Nico then realizes she might be experiencing similar effects to Petra, but in a different way. Zane admits she is not knowledgeable about astrobiology, so Nico instructs her to wake someone who has the expertise they need. Julian wakes up from the soma and learns about the soil sample Bernie collected. He explains that under the right conditions, boron can be crucial for forming the building blocks of life. On the deck, Michelle becomes frustrated when asked about communication progress, prompting Cass to suggest she take a break. In Nico's room, she receives a message from Jonna but cannot see it. She asks William to summarize the video for her. After hearing the update, she tries to rest, but Michelle comes in and begins to strangle her, believing Nico is a threat to the crew. They fight, and Nico manages to subdue Michelle before calling William to inform Zane about Michelle. Later, Zane keeps Michelle asleep while she screams to kill Nico. Julian explains that iron bonds with boron to create a protein chain, which is causing the virus that attacks the nervous system. He names the virus Bernardium Pagius after Bernie, who was the source. Julian then removes his suit and tells that he was infected as soon as Julian woke him up from the soma. Eric, frustrated by their inability to decode signals from the artifact, goes to a bar with his colleagues to unwind. There, he runs into Harper again, which irritates him. They strike a deal. If Eric wins at trivia, Harper will leave him alone for a month. If Harper wins, she gets half an hour to discuss the artifact. Eric eventually wins the game. The crew discusses Petra's infection and recovery, hoping Nico will also soon regain her sight. Petra suddenly becomes sick, and a large red bump appears on her neck. As her nervous system starts to protrude, the crew decides they must vent the infected atmosphere into space, though Bernie opposes, fearing it's a suicide mission. Nico insists it's necessary to save everyone, and Bernie volunteers to be a test subject to correct his error. Nico allows the crew to record messages for their loved ones before proceeding. Julian questions Bernie's commitment and takes him aside, while William reassures Nico that Petra's fate might not be hers, though she remains fearful. Julian injects the vaccine he developed and it seems to be working on Bernie, but he decides to test it on himself since he doesn't have the same resistance. Despite Bernie's protests, Julian injects himself. Moments later, he feels warm and starts developing blisters like Petra. He rushes to Petra's cell, instructing Bernie to take his notes and press the button to evict him from the ship. Bernie hesitates but eventually ejects Julian into space. Meanwhile, Javier spends his final moments fixing the Soma sleep system. After Julian is expelled, Bernie remains focused on finding a cure. When William tells him that the time has come, Bernie refuses to let the virus ruin the mission. Later, Bernie demonstrates to William that the infected cells are disappearing. Meanwhile, Nico prepares the team to enter an air duct. Michelle and Nico both apologize for their previous actions. As they get ready to enter the duct, William arrives with news that Bernie has found a cure. Bernie explains that gamma rays might cleanse the ship and crew, so they decide to head towards Sirius B, where they get exposed to gamma rays. Afterward, Zane and William inform everyone that there is no sign of the virus. William also explains that exposure to gamma radiation has led to everyone being sterilized. Bernie feels regretful about expelling Julian, thinking his efforts were in vain. Nico reassures him, reminding him that the greatest sacrifice was agreeing to the mission in the first place. Back on Earth, Eric decides to give a data cube to Harper, hoping her large following can help analyze it. Everyone in the Salvaire returns to Soma, and William tells Nico he will miss her. However, a loud knock wakes Nico, who discovers blood on the floor and finds August injured. August warns her that something on board is hunting them. Nico and August are joined by Cass, who informs them they're on Pi Canis Majoris and that everyone has been separated. As they attempt to get August to the medical room, she is suddenly abducted by creatures. Cass and Nico then find Javier, Zane, Oliver, Bernie, and Michelle. They plan to trap the creature in the airlock and ejected into space. However, the creature kills the crew one by one, leaving only Cass and Nico. In a desperate move, Nico traps both Cass and the creature in the airlock, where the creature kills Cass. Nico then returns to Soma. In the following scene, the crew gathers around Nico, who is in Soma. It's revealed that the deaths were just part of Nico's dream. The crew is worried because the Soma system's batteries are failing, leaving less than 30 minutes of power. If Nico stays asleep beyond that, she risks brain damage. While the crew discusses this, Nico drifts through various dreams. In one, she is back in the past with Dubois, who talks about the mission, the Pilgrim. Dubois calls her a hero, but Nico reacts by punching her and the security guards while shouting for her daughter. When she opens a door, she finds herself at a funeral where a man says Nico saved half the crew by sacrificing the other half. Nico then leaves the funeral and finds herself at a party with Eric, where they celebrate Jonna's 8th birthday. She realizes in this dream that she has stayed on Earth, and comes to understand she is actually in Soma sleep. Zane tries to remove Nico from Soma but hesitates, knowing that even a slight mistake could be fatal. Meanwhile, the team discusses the situation, and Michelle informs Cass that their sensors detected a moon. Cass, however, wants to focus on waking Nico from her Soma sleep. Eventually, Zane stabilizes Nico, but there is a concern that she might not realize she is dreaming. William suggests trying to convince her from within her subconscious. Cass agrees, and William appears in Nico's dream, urging her to wake up and realize that none of it is real. Nico insists that everything feels real to her, and William is puzzled by this. As William leaves, she hears that the salver has crashed and everyone is presumed dead. An alarm begins to sound, and Nico tries to turn it off. She insists she needs to return to the salver, and exits the dream. As she exits, she finds herself at a mission on Saturn, where a man tells her to look outside as they prepare to dock. Despite Nico's warnings about impending danger, the man ignores her and continues with the docking process. In Salver, Cass announces her plan to go to the moon and is quickly called into the Soma, where she learns that Nico has only 13 minutes left to live. William decides to return to Nico's dream, despite Cass's objections that they cannot manage without Nico and William. In the dream, William appears, and Nico hugs him in relief, explaining her failed attempt to wake up before being redirected to the Saturn mission. She alters the mission's equation to save everyone. As she starts dismantling half of the ship, Jonna appears outside, causing the dream to restart. William advises her to look within herself, and she understands what she needs to do. However, William is pulled out of the dream, leaving Nico to come to terms with her situation and move forward. Zane then informs them that Nico's prefrontal cortex is active, indicating she is fighting to wake up. Nico repeats the events but accepts them this time. Meanwhile, Cass and Zane are removing the needles from the Soma, and Nico successfully awakens in Salver. Nico asks Cass about the ship's unexpected change in course, and Cass explains that they took a minor detour. Nico is frustrated because the detour was 4 light-years long, and they don't even know if the moon has any resources. Cass insists she made what she believed was the best decision for the mission. William then reveals that he intercepted the same transmission on the moon as the one they received on Earth. They look at the moon's surface and see the same artifact. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave 1,000 likes or 100 comments if you'd like us to continue part 2. Thank you.